having child. So in this case, the rape allowed it, but their stance is not consistent because, as I told you, in many other cases, women don't have consent of having a child. So it means their stance is not consistent. So we strongly oppose this motion. In order to summarize this debate, I have two criteria. First is the definition of supporting parents after they their children work or not. Secondly, secondly, after taking this proposal, children can be happy or not. So first, they said in definition that government can support their parents, but as my partner clearly told you, that support doesn't work because, as my clearly told you, the parents parents who don't love their children will not use that support for baby because those parents will use that money for themselves. So in the first place, if parents don't love their children, such parents will not use support to their children in the first place. So those parents will use that money for themselves, and so their support will not work as in order to raise children up. So their support will not work. So in this point, we are still at the other side. And secondly, we will talk about whether or not the children can be happy after taking this proposal. So their stance is that after birth, the parents will try to love their children because there is so much connection between the parents and children. But so as I and as my partner more clearly explained why the parents cannot love their children, because we could explain in the emotion and financially, because we could explain why the parents cannot love, because in the first place, they cannot love their children because they don't want to have the children, and moreover, we could explain financial reason. Those parents cannot bring children up appropriately. So in this case, also we are completely sphere the same. But the government, as I told you, only say government can support after birth. So moreover, after giving birth, parents will try to love. So the parents can love the children. But we could explain more detail and more deeply, because we could explain mentally or financially deeply. So in those reasons, we are sphere the same. So we may two points.
I'd like to invite panelists again to some of the debate with your comments. Here.
Madam Speaker, so they consistently mentioned that our stance wasn't clear. But we mentioned to you from the beginning of my speech that rape can become exception when that is a forced choice, right? But moreover, even if we were to consider rape, right, we say that rape is a minority case and we should not judge on these exceptional cases, because these rapes are the cases that we actually do not want to support, and we are more than happy to tell them that that action is wrong in our side of health, right? And that's also something that you should do, and we say rape is something that can be justifiable to the consistency of our stance, right? We tell you, Madam Speaker, despite the fact that we have this education in the state school, nonetheless, because you actually have the choice of having this abortion, you simply have these sex easily. You simply do not consider the consequences of aftermath. Right? We told that to be problematic because responsibility is something that's lacking in their side of health. That's why we say that abortion should not be considered at all costs. Right? So based on that, two issues coming from the reply speaker of the government side. First of all, let me tell you in which paradigm it will be better for the woman. Second of all, let me tell you in which paradigm it will be better for the children. Before that, two independent rebuttals to the deputy leader of the opposition. Now, first of all, what she said about the point of how support doesn't work and how people who do not love the baby will not have support in the first place. We tell you that's a huge jump on logic, which is coming from that side of the house. Because if these parents do not want these children, we said they do have an incentive to have this adoption and to have to receive the money in the first place, right? Then they also mentioned about the point of how they will use the money on something else or on themselves, right? We're more than happy to have any stringent check or regulation to actually check what kind of money is actually used, whether on that children or whether on that parent, right? We tell this is usually utterly rubbish coming from that side of the house. Moreover, the point of sexual domestic abuse, right? We tell the Madam Speaker they never ever explain what is the distinction between sexual domestic abuse and rape, right? We tell you that these sexual domestic abuse is something that's identical and equivalent to rape. That's why we're more than happy to try to treat this as an exception because we simply see an equal harm coming from the sexual domestic abuse as well. Right? So moreover, Mrs. Madam Speaker, moving on to my issues. So in which paradigm we can expect more of a better paradigm from the woman. Right? So what we see coming from that side of the house is that these actions is something that's troublesome and that these children will not have a happy life. We tell you, Madam Speaker, that it's hugely more abhorrent coming from that side of the house because that is exactly the same logic as killing the poor children in Africa because these children will have the burden of malnutrition, of not having beautiful future ahead of them. Right? We tell this hugely problematic and hugely offensive coming from that side of the house. We simply say just because these children will have a troublesome life, just because his mother will have a troublesome life, you should justify the action of killing these people. Moreover, even if we were to consider this unwanted life, right, we tell you there is a still responsibility that is actually inherent to be in the sentence at the first place. But moreover, we say that in our paradigm, as we're able to deter and preemptively prevent the situation in the first place, we do not believe that these people will need to go through this procedure, undergo through this procedure in the first place. That's why we see that in our paradigm, we are able to protect the woman because we're also more than happy to give these supports into adoption and counseling and support and subsidizing at any cost to be able to have much more constructive and meaningful relationship in that house. Right? But moreover, moving on to the second issue of which paradigm we can expect more better paradigm to your children. So what we see coming from that side of the house is that orphan will simply be bad. We say that they never explain why bad is something that's hugely important, but moreover we say that they never be more than happy to try to make it as good as possible, and we do not believe feasibility is an argument that will say in this very debate. We say that, Madam Speaker, they mentioned about the point of parents killing and punishing and killing and kicking is something. We say that can be applied to the case of child abuse, which is not something that we want to support on our side of the house. Right? We ultimately believe that these children need to be given the golden opportunity to live, and that you simply cannot preemptively say that these children, just because these children will not suffer, will not have a happy life, you should simply kill these children, you should simply literally end these people's life. Right? So at the end of the day, we've mentioned to you about the point of how these parents, these women will feel guilty and feel regretful after their action, and how it will degrade the woman's value in that side of the house, which we see no engagement coming from that side of the house. But we also mentioned to you the point of how life is a paramount attitude and how people should have the responsibility to action. We say that we should try to take this proposal and not legalize, not have this abortion at all costs. Therefore, we're extremely happy to propose.